Could you imagine your electric bill coming out higher on the month that you had less electricity than on the month that you had more of it? Oh, and that's not a hypothetical, by the way. That actually did happen to us, and it's ridiculous. But if you think that's ridiculous, I have another situation that I'll let you decide if you think it's wacky nonsense or not later on in this video. But first, the story. So you see, we've been having pretty consistent power outages in Ecuador all over the country. At some point, the duration of these outages has been as low as 4 hours and as high as 14 hours. Heck, there were even industrial zones that had 24-hour blackouts. So 2 electric bills back, when the blackouts were bad but not abysmal, we paid $112 in our electricity bill, which my dad says is approximately $20 less than what we normally pay on our electric bill. And it makes sense, right? You have less power, you use less power, so you pay less for power. Now we move on to paying the bill for this month, which remember, was the month that had the 14-hour blackouts. And remember, those blackouts weren't just for one day, but they were for a week, and for some people, even more. Naturally, anyone and everyone would assume the same as before. You have less power, so you use less power, so you pay less for power. So you can best believe how surprised and angry my dad was to see that not only was this month's bill not less than last month's, but it was actually more. We had to pay $113 for this month's electric bill. Now, before we move on, I know that someone is gonna come out and say,
"But Ace, it's only $1. What's the big deal?"
Well, confused individual, the problem isn't the fact that it's only $1. It's the fact that it makes absolutely no sense to be paying more in any quantity instead of paying less. And if that doesn't make sense, here's the logic behind it. On the month that we had less blackouts, my dad calculated that we had 96 hours without power, which resulted in a savings of $20 on our power bill. Using that same logic, on the month where we had more blackouts, we had 340 hours without power, which at best would be approximately $70 less on our power bill, and maybe $40 or less at worst. But no, somehow instead of it going down, it didn't even stay the same. It actually somehow went up. Now, I naively thought that this had a solution after hearing the following.
A nivel nacional, nuestras distribuidoras de energía eléctrica han recibido varios reclamos ciudadanos, quienes nos comunican sobre un incremento en el valor de sus planillas. En otros casos, nos informan que pese a la suspensión de cortes programados, su valor a cancelar es igual o superior al mes anterior. Para mayor transparencia y atendiendo la preocupación ciudadana, hemos habilitado diferentes canales de atención al usuario en todas nuestras distribuidoras. Nuestro compromiso es que la ciudadanía pague lo justo. Si encontramos errores en las lecturas, los vamos a corregir y actuaremos en beneficio del usuario.
Sounds good, right? Well, it might as well be just all talk, because when my dad went to go explain the situation, his words pretty much fell on deaf ears. Or at least I wish they did, because the response from the person who attended my dad that day was that apparently the reason why our power bill didn't go down was because the fridge, when it turns back on, consumes a lot of power. So, you know. After that, they told him to file a lawsuit or a complaint, a demanda as they call it here, and wait to see if the situation would pretty much get resolved that way. Pretty crazy, right? Now at this point, I would hope that you all agree that it shouldn't be like this. Everyone and everyone's grandma knows what's happening in the country, and pushing this into the bureaucratic process or blaming it on the fridge?
Wow, so, it's crazy.
And if that wasn't wacky enough, I want to know what you think about the following. So I and many people in Ecuador, of course, have a mobile plan. While I know that very few people get 100% out of their data plan, It does serve the purpose of being a backup internet access when you don't happen to have the password to the Wi-Fi at the place you're at. Calls might be important to some people, but I hear that most people run when they see a call on their phone and they just prefer that you message them if you want to talk to them. Anyways, guess what wasn't working when the power outages started getting bad? If your answer was certain businesses, then you're not wrong. I mean, you're probably a troll, but you're not wrong. But that's not the answer I'm looking for. The correct answer is the mobile plans, of course. And my obvious complaint here is, why am I paying full price for a service that doesn't work when I need it to work? Now, for that one person who's going to say,
You have to pay. It's not the service's fault. It's the fault of the energy crisis.
my response is, why are you defending these multi-million-dollar corporations? Do you think they're gonna praise you? Are they gonna give you a cookie? And aside from that, even the government and the telecommunications corporations themselves realize that some sort of compensation needs to be given due to this situation. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. I can't believe they're thinking about us. If that's what you thought, then you might just be more naive than I am. Here's the compensations that these entities are giving. The first is to enable payment agreement mechanisms for those users of postpaid plans whose economic situation has been affected by power cuts, analyzing the situation case by case. The second is to assign a package of text messages, SMS, to all customers of the mobile service at no cost. SMS is the technically most suitable service for urgent communication or in emergency situations. And then, once the power supply is normalized, to execute service remediation plans with our mobile and fixed service users. In addition, we're supposed to get some extra gigabytes added during these months. So let me get this straight. You're going to give me gigabytes that don't even load when I actually want to use them? Keep your gigabytes. I don't want them. I want my money back or a reduction in my bills. Sure, it's great that there are going to be deferrals of bills from the companies because that's going to help people who are going through a hard time right now, but that's not resolving the issue, nor will it compensate us for the service that we couldn't use when we needed it. While the government and these phone companies might think that SMS is saving people because they think people want to use it to communicate, what the people really want is to have access to the internet. And I won't say I speak for everyone on these issues, but I do know that there are people who have been complaining because they've had increases in their power plans even when there's no power, and I'm personally not happy about the situation with the phone companies. But those are my thoughts, and I want to know what you think. Would you be mad at paying for power that you're not using? Would you be upset that your service provider is charging you the same for your plan, even though it's been borderline worthless? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as a final conclusion, I know that this all might have sounded like a rant or a really long complaint that you might think might not resolve anything. But the reality is, if you don't say anything, if you stay quiet, then nothing will ever happen. We have a voice. These companies cannot survive without us, so we have to hold them accountable when they fail. Thanks for watching, and as always, Ace out.